Welcome to the Sowing Seed Podcast. One guy's thoughts on family, faith, farming, and financial freedom. Now from the Farms Podcast Studio, here's your host, Matt Miller.
I'm a doer. I don't really spend a whole lot of time to think or to figure out a bunch of the details. I learn by doing, and so I'm one of those guys that'll just kind of jump in and figure it out as I go. That can be a huge positive, but can be a negative too. There are strengths and weaknesses for sure in that type of personality. Anyway, I think it was August of 2014. One of the things that I had always wanted to do once we moved out here to EIEIO is not just raise chickens and figure out how to raise meat birds and, of course, chickens' layers for eggs, not just to grow a big garden and to plant fruit and nut trees and be able to benefit from that harvest, but also to raise pigs. And I was blessed to have an opportunity to go to Joel Salatin's Polyface Farm in Virginia. It was one of the first. It wasn't a conference. It was an intensive. There was a group of probably 30 of us that were there for several days. But I just learned a ton, and I absolutely love what Joel and his family are doing there at Polyface. It's intensive as far as time and effort, and because I've got a lot of other things going, I've had to choose a happy medium between what they do and what works for us. But I've learned a ton by reading his books and by getting that experience on his farm. Well, one of the things that they raise among just about anything else you can think of is pigs. And so to see their hog operation and to see how simple it is, to see that they use electric fencing to keep them within the paddocks that they're in, etc., was really, really neat to me, because we were kind of being held back because we didn't know how much work the pigs were going to take. And Amy, just all she could think of is some of the, pig lots that she had driven by, or pig farms she had driven by as a kid, where the smell was just everywhere. Well, we decided to take a plunge. There isn't really anybody who's raising anything but, show pigs here in this part of the country. So I went on Craigslist, started doing some searching around, and found a farmer up in southeast Oklahoma who had, some weaned pigs that were for sale. Well, Amy and I were taking our son Zane to his freshman year at Hillsdale College and decided that we would just pick up the pigs on the way home after dropping Zane off for his freshman year. Now, we at the time had a Ford Taurus, a 97 Ford Taurus, and then we had our 99 Honda Odyssey van. So we got a big box and, of course, delivered Zane and all his stuff to Hillsdale up in Michigan, and then planned on driving through Oklahoma on the way home. We ended up turning the cargo van into essentially a pickup truck and picked up a couple of pigs and brought them back to EIEIO in the back of our Honda Odyssey van. We had some cardboard down in the back. We had to get a little bit creative. The pigs were probably 20 pounds a piece or so they weren't over that big yet. But it was an adventure for sure. Pigs don't sweat, so they've got to have cooler temperatures, or at least water and mud that they can roll in the summer. And it just so happens that the air conditioning went out in our van right before that trip. And we couldn't afford to get it fixed. So here we are after driving cross country both ways in a car without air conditioning, picking up 2 pigs and having to drive with the windows down most of the time, worrying, since it was our first exposure to pigs, if they were going to overheat or not on the trip, and having a flat tire shortly after picking them up in Oklahoma and having to scramble to find a place that would patch it for us so that we could make it home. Talk about an adventure. One that, quite honestly, Amy doesn't ever want to have to do again. But it is what it is. And my philosophy has always been to do what you've got to do, even if the scenario isn't perfect. You know, in a perfect world, we would have had, you know, a big pen. We would have had a pickup truck, but we didn't. And we chose not to let those little details get in the way of our adventure. And so we ended up picking those pigs up. We brought them home. We raised them for, I think it was about 8 months or so, 8 or 9 months. And then we sent them off to the processor and still have some meat in the freezer that we eat on a pretty regular basis from the raising of those animals. Sometimes you got to get creative. Sometimes you just got to do whatever you got to do. It may not be pretty, but you got to get it done. And so when you're looking at struggles or you're looking at challenges or hurdles in your life, what are things that you could do to be more creative to overcome that hurdle that may be non-standard, that may be a little odd, that your friends or family may look at you cross-eyed if they heard what you did. But to be honest, it shouldn't matter what they think anyway, because it's your life. You're living it. And they'll forget about it before long anyway. So, progress, always moving forward, doing whatever you got to do instead of waiting for every last detail to be perfect. And in the process, moving forward, learning new things, experiencing new things, and living a more full life.
Thanks for listening. Check out our website, sowingseed.net, the Sowing Seed channel on YouTube, and if you got something out of today's podcast, give us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. Until next time, go plant the seed you need to succeed.